The Airport Advisory Board meeting for Wednesday, July 28th, 2021. Tammy, will you call the roll?
Chair Norville.
Here.
Vice Chair Dempsey.
Here.
Member Lester.
Here.
Member Mitchell.
Here.
Member Smyser.
Here.
Member Plogger.
Okay, the next item, we're going to do a presentation from Michael Baker International, the update.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us present an update on a couple of our projects. My name is Maribin Anderson, and I am with Michael Baker International. I am your airport wildlife biologist and your environmental scientist, not just for the airport, but also for the city. So these are my qualifications. I'm old, although I don't show my gray hair. So I've been around for a while, and I have been in Florida for 39 years, and majority of my experience, of course, is in Florida. So just to give you a little background, so the city and the airport actually have this project that was developed in the Reasonable Assurance Plan for the Mosquito Lagoon. Basically, it identified the airport burrow pit for use for treatment to address water quality issues. And so this is your burrow pit, and what they had proposed conceptually, which we are actually in the final stages of designing, is to create a diversion structure, it's like a weir, that would divert the flow that's in the CO5 canal into the burrow pit, leave it there, let Mother Nature and biology and the plants take away the nutrients, and then dump it back into the canal. So that actually reduces the nitrogen, your total nitrogen, your nutrients, and your phosphorus in the water. So it also benefits the burrow pit, because right now the burrow pit has no outlet, so the water is stagnant in it, so it actually flushes the water. So it benefits not just the burrow pit and the canal, but the surrounding area where that water drains from. So this is what the canal looks like, and it has been excavated, and it's got a lot of exotic Brazilian pepper. So we're not really impacting much, because we're only installing 2 pipes and a weir. And that is a picture of the burrow pit. So as part of this study, we did a wildlife hazard site visit. And apologize that you can't see the text, but it was done in December of last year. So we were there for 2 days. Per FAA requirements, the wildlife surveys was done at sunrise, midday, and sunset for 2 days. And so we take that data to compare the wildlife that is actually using the burrow pit. We have to have an airport site. And based on that study, we have more wildlife activity at the airport than at the burrow pit, meaning to say that the burrow pit currently is not considered a wildlife attractant. So the wildlife using the burrow pit is significantly less, or what we call background noise. And the reason why we do this is as part of your process, as part of the FAA long-term lease. So the airport is leasing the property to the city so that they can do this water quality improvement project. You have grant assurances that there has to be safe aircraft operation at the airport, which means we have to address wildlife hazard management and attractants. We needed a baseline to make sure that the conditions of the burrow pit is not going to change over time, or if it changes over time, we would be able to compare. We're trying to address the potential of the burrow pit to become a wildlife attractant in the future. So as part of that, we also do water quality monitoring, because this is a nutrient reduction, load reduction project, or a water quality improvement project. We are collecting 9 months pre-construction and 9 months post-construction for pH, total phosphorus, basically your nutrients, and chlorophyll A, which was approved by FDEP. And we received your permit to construct those three structures in July 15th from St. John's. Currently, DEP's permit has been received, acknowledged, and they came back with us with basically telling us that we can't conduct a site visit, which is required until January of 2022. So we're not looking to start construction until sometime in March. So the only thing left that we have to do right now is the 7460 application, which is basically a notification to the FAA of construction to make sure that the construction activity is not going to pierce the airspace. FDP application follow-up after they told us that they would issue the permit 30 days after the January 13 site visit. Advertising the bid, bidding the award, and of course construction, and after that we'll do water quality monitoring after. So in 2017 we conducted your, 2018 we conducted your airport wildlife hazard assessment. I was one of your airport wildlife biologists. So we identified wildlife that would increase the risk of a wildlife strike. So Adam will tell you that your number one hazardous wildlife is our coyotes. So the wildlife hazard assessment has a list of recommendations. And FAA reviewed it, and so FAA basically said, we agree with the recommendation of the airport wildlife biologist that they need a wildlife hazard management plan. So that management plan is in this fiscal year, so I will be working with you all and Adam and Tammy developing the wildlife hazard management plan. In it, it comes with a toolkit, and we're basically gonna build your toolbox. So the toolkit is your camera, your binoculars, pistol launcher for pyrotechnics, an application for a depredation permit so that he can haze. You have a lot of cattle egrets and other ones that is protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. And other lists of recommendations such as fencing. We're gonna look at your ditches to make sure they're draining. They have, if you have ponds that may be, not draining within 24 to 48 hours, we'll take a look at those. So those will be identified, and some of them will require NEPA documentation and some of them will not. So at the end of the day, your wildlife hazard management plan is gonna have a list of projects. And then they're gonna be prioritized, and we're gonna identify which one of them needs NEPA requirements and which one of them can be implemented and put in your capital improvement plan. So, do you have any questions or comments? That's a lot of information, I'm sorry. I was told that 10 minutes, so I tried to make it as simple and concise as I could, and then 5 minutes for Q&A.
Do you know approximately how deep the burrow pit is?
So, according to the bathymetric survey, the burrow pit is not that deep. It's actually about 30 feet, 20 in some areas.
Thank you.
So you haven't seen any alligators or anything like in there?
We did see an alligator in there at one time, but in the last survey, we did a site visit in January of last year, and then our folks, surveyors, and we actually have the water quality monitoring note any wildlife that is observed, and so it's like hit or miss. Sometimes we have ducks, sometimes we have birds, but only once where did they report an alligator.
Who actually does the construction of the weir and the piping and?
That is going to be advertised for bid by the city. So at this time, it is undetermined until the bid is advertised, sir.
Okay.
Anybody got anything else?
Does anybody else have any questions?
I don't.
I'm at your disposal. I'm, basically an extension of your staff. So if you have any questions, I'll give you some of my cards. Thank you
Okay.
so very much.
Thank you. All right, next we'll move on to public input. Jim, would you like to be public input? Got nothing? All right, the next item is consent agenda. Consider the approval of the Airport Advisory Board meeting minutes from April 28th, 2021. Anybody make a motion to,
Recommend approve.
Second.
Second?
Tammy, call the roll?
Thank you.
Chair Norville,
Yes?
Vice Chair Dempsey,
Yes.
Member Lester,
Yes.
Member Mitchell,
Yes.
Member Smiser.
Yes.
Okay, next item is old business. Capital improvement project updates.
We starting with A.
Do you guys want to start with the admin building?
The only thing that I have would be coming, which is the grant that I have on tomorrow night's commission agenda for approval. It's an FAA grant for the Taxiway Charlie project. So that grant came in, was 100% funded, but it had to be executed before the next commission agenda. So I got it on the 29th, so it should be executed for that. The contract for the wildlife hazard management plan, the contract for the consultant, and the contract for PNS paving for the taxiway project will be on the August 10th agenda, and then we would do a pre-construction, a preliminary pre-construction meeting without the subs, but just the main contractor to lay out how we would be proceeding in the timeline. So we would do that before I left in August, and then the project would then be beginning after that, because they'll have time for purchase and ordering of materials and getting their contracts underway and those types of things that we normally do in advance, filing their safety plan and approving that through the tower control manager. The grant I originally applied for was a 3-phase, totaling $2.4 million, and we only received $101.7 million of the project, almost 1.8. They took out the alternate A. So for anyone that looked at those previous sketches, it was in 3 phases. It was the base bid, and alternate A and alternate B. Alternate A is the run-up area that is between 1129 and 725, or between Alpha and Delta, that section where Epic goes out. That is going to be included in the next project, or Adam can include that in the next project for Alpha taxiway improvements. So the design is completed for it. So what we will be proceeding with is Taxiway Charlie rehab. The drainage that we found on the airport that needed to be done got included and was approved. So we'll do Taxiway Charlie from the south hangars all the way back to the ramp, with a new extension coming off of 1129 to meet the FAA guidelines, and then from the apron north to 725, and then we will remove portions of the ends of 220 old pavement and then sod that. So there are areas that have been addressed as points of concern for itinerant traffic that's not familiar with where they're at. There's pavement that the markings are old, but they kind of get confused, so it becomes a safety issue. Those areas of old pavement along what is now Echo will be removed, with the exception of where the run-up area is. And that project is scheduled to be completed in 110 days. I put 8 months, including time, allowing extra time for ordering of lights and materials and whatever else they need. But that's pretty much it. I don't see any issue with the grant getting approved. It's 100% funding, so we will be expending no airport funds to do the project. The design was completed last year with a grant that I got for 100%. So the entire project will be at no cost to the airport.
Cool.
I'll come back and see it when it's done. And then Adam's got the rest, the admin and rest of the
That's coming up next.
CAP.
Yeah, we had included quite a bit in the packet, so I'm not sure if you guys had any specific concerns or questions. We did just recently find out, and I'm going to brief at the CIP meeting tomorrow morning, that the buildings Bravo and Charlie, which are part of the apron infill project, to award that contract's going to go in front of the commission on the 24th of August. And then hopefully we can start having machines on site September 1st, give or take. So you heard a little bit of an update from Maribin with the wildlife management plan. That's one of the other projects that we were working on. And we have yet to hear anything back from the DOT. We've had 2 virtual meetings with them regarding the grant opportunity for the admin building. As you guys know, it came in quite a bit over estimation due to the current conditions. And so at the moment, we don't have any further updates. We're at the mercy of our opportunities with the DOT right now.
You're going to be able to bring in the millions that Rhonda's brought in over the years?
That's the goal.
Did she teach you?
She did.
Okay. That's what we need.
Is that it for your capital improvement project updates, or anybody else got anything?
How is H coming along?
That's a great question. We are rounding the final corner, home plates in sight. We have basically the paving is the next major visible change that's going to happen. They've got they've got a lot of the lime rock base down. They've gotten some of their soil samples tested, to make sure the compaction's correct. So they're lining things up for paving. That'll be the next big visual change. And then we'll start working through, punch list items and, what remains. But largely, the drywall is done. Most of the electrical's done. We should be putting in all the lights this week. All the doors are on. The east side of the building, the bifold doors, not been installed yet. So we're waiting on that. They're working on the other end right now, and when they finish that, they'll move. So, but they've been able to get the project back on track.
Well, the goal is to have it completed, even though it's behind. The goal is to have it completed by August 31st. I submitted for a extension of the grant because the grant expired June 1st. It should have been completed by June 1st. So any expenses incurred after that would not have been eligible for reimbursement. So I was allowed an extension to October 1st. So I've given them a deadline of you either get it completed or you don't get paid for what you've got left because we can't get reimbursed. So they are pushing extremely hard to get completed.
How much of that hangar is rented out already, or is it 100%?
Oh, I'm sure it will be 100%. We'll have to send out the notices and allow, like we've done in the past where we let the existing tenants that would like to, there's 13 hangars, so that won't be a problem. There's 100 between the 2 lists. There's probably almost 100 people on the E and F. Is that about correct, Tammy?
Yes.
And about 70 on the G and H. So I don't see a problem with renting the hangars. And right now, we're losing the revenue that we had budgeted for this year for those hangars that should have been completed in December. So we need to get them rented as quickly as possible.
Okay. Any other capital improvement?
When is the demolition of B and C going to be done?
Pending the commission awarding the contractor on the 24th of August, and then pending finance working through for the PO, we're hopeful they can start September 1st or later.
Great.
I have one item. The RSAT call that we had back, I guess it was in 20. They added an item for taxiway E and talked about the additional concrete removal that was kind of a safety issue that was raised there. Where is that being tracked? And is that, which one of these items is that part of?
The RSAT,
Right, because there were two open RSAP items, but those had plans coming for them, and
Yeah.
there was a new one that was opened, the 2021-001, and is talking about taxiway E, the concrete removal. Okay.
so that is part of this Taxiway Charlie project. Was the second phase, is to pull it out. As far as the RSAT, we usually address those as we meet with the tower manager. Jim, do you want to come up and address that?
Just the follow-up.
Did,
We're looking at the Wincone project, which is ahead. And then as far as Echo is concerned, that's a timing with the contract and the. in
With
getting-
Charlie.
Exactly.
yeah, that
with Charlie.
project, the Taxiway Charlie project would be starting probably in September, and you'd look at 6 months to
Okay.
basically complete it. But is this a specific specific?
No, I was just trying to keep track of them because.
Oh, okay, I
they-
thought you
they
meant there
came
was
up
like a
in
new
the
one.
RSAT meeting, and there
Mhm.
were two open ones already that one from 2017 on the striping, okay, and the signage.
And that's also part of that when
And-
they start to
and-
market.
And that one's being covered. There was one on the additional wind cone, okay, that was a 2021, okay? And that one, you had mentioned one time that was probably 23 by the time that one was done.
So the
taxing?
wind cone, my suggestion to Adam is that because the wind cone isn't going to meet the criteria for a project, even though it's safety related, for them to issue a grant on behalf of just that criteria is probably not going to happen. They usually look at, there's priorities listed, and paving is going to take precedence.
Yeah.
And that's a small project. The other thing they won't do is they won't write a grant for less than $25,000. So my suggestion to Adam is that on the next project, it was too late to do anything with the Charlie project. But when they do the design for Alpha, which ties in there,
Yeah.
is that they tie that windsock in, because there'll already be electric, there'll already be signage, and they can just add that windsock right in there, and it'll just go right on through.
Okay.
So that should be added into the next project now, along with the rehab of the run-up areas.
And just to the east of Alpha, where it intersects with 725, is pretty much the midpoint. So that's kind of where we're looking to place it.
I guess, would it make sense to have something that we track relative to those three open items because they were raised as safety issues in that RSAT meeting, and just to be able to show the FAA that they're being tracked? And
We
that-
supply, when we have the meeting, the safety meeting, the FAA is involved in that, and then they follow up with a summary, and those actions are addressed in that summary. So they all everyone gets a copy of that. We have a copy of that if you'd like to have that, and then
Yeah, I
it's
was in the
addressed at the
meeting.
next meeting.
I was in the meeting, but I didn't get anything post-meeting as far
The-
as any kind of email with info in it or anything.
No, it becomes part of the runway safety action plan that's
Plan.
approved by the FAA.
Yeah.
And then the next meeting, it's included in what's called the RSAT.
Okay. I just
So they
wanted-
go back and readdress it, but we'll be happy to send the summary that was done.
Well,
to you.
I guess
Yep.
I'm asking the question of the board is, we've got three items that have been addressed by the FAA as some level of safety issue, okay? And should we be tracking those in our follow-up of the actions? I mean, right now, we're following capital improvements and other stuff, but I just, in my mind.
Well, what we do is we address those safety issues, including them with projects, so that they can be, so that we can mitigate the issues.
Okay.
So,
But all I'm
and we bring them up
suggesting
and,
is if we have these three issues from the FAA safety meeting, should we not have a line item here somewhere
In the-
that's-
in your,
that says,
agenda?
Here are the three, and this is being addressed in the taxiway C, this one's being addressed this way, this one's being addressed this way, just so that there's some.
we can, and there is in the summary, so what we can do is, and we don't update that summary until the next year, but we can provide you that after that meeting. We can send that out to all the board members, and then they would have a running total, and it would tell you exactly, because that's how we've addressed it with them, is that it will be brought up in the safety meetings, or, at the safety meetings, we address that this is part of this project, it's gonna be completed in X amount of time. So
But
we can
I
give
don't
you
know
all
that
that,
we're
and then
seeing- I
they
don't
can
know that
track
we're
it.
seeing anything that says that
It's being
How-
actioned.
what progress is being made on those safety issues.
So,
As part of our regular quarterly reviews,
Yeah.
we're not seeing anything that says where they're being covered, and we know from your capital updates, if you say it's in the taxiway C um, effort, then we know it's covered there, but.
mhm.
Well, and so that's what I say, we can give you those summaries, and that they're listed out, and then every time they have a meeting, they could just, if there's any update, they can just update it on there, and it'll be ready, and they can just
Well, the
provide you
summary
that
comes
as
out
part
once
of
a
your
year.
meeting plan.
Does summary come out once a year?
They do it once a year, but they could update that summary, and it would be ready for the time
Yeah.
when they have the meeting, so they could just continue to update that and give that to you at your quarterly meetings. When the safety meeting rolls back around, then it would already be completed. So it would just be,
So
it would
what
be
is-
ready to go.
What
And
is the
you could have it
problem with
quarterly.
putting an item in our minutes that we
Yeah.
meet quarterly? So what's the issue with putting an item, a standalone item in the minutes that says, regarding the three RSAT issues, 2017, 20, and 21, here's the status?
Yeah, it's shouldn't be a problem at all.
Can I make a motion that be added?
Sure.
Okay.
Second to the motion?
Second?
Tammy, will you call the roll?
Chair Norval?
Yes?
Vice Chair Dempsey?
Yes.
Member Lester?
Yes.
Member Mitchell?
Yes.
Member Smizer?
Yes.
Okay, you want to move on to 5B, 75th anniversary of the airport celebration? Airport Advisory Board members to discuss airport budget for the event. Who's heading that up?
Isn't $5,000 enough?
No.
No.
Is this your? Who's going to tell us about?
The 75th anniversary.
I
here.
am.
You're the one that's been pushing it all this time. Let's hear the presentation.
Yes, I've been talking about it for
For a
3
long
years.
time, so now spit it out, girl.
Well, we're supposed to be talking about the money. I have no idea what signs cost, what information, what flyers cost. I'm not, I have not been involved in planning an event such as this. So, do any of you have any information on just
What's the-
what initial costs would be?
I can give you that, but not right at the moment. But I need, what's your projection? What's everybody's projection on how many people they think is gonna come? That would be the first thing. Are we gonna have 5,000, 10,000, 2,000, 120?
Did you have the opportunity to look at the graphic that I had made?
The graphic you did?
Yes.
Yeah, you made a
No.
little.
Yeah.
No. Oh, yeah, right here it is.
That was a starting place. This kind of size and scale. I figured it would be a kind of a launch pad for our conversation.
How long is this event? 1 day, 2 days?
For my first attempt down the road with this, I believe we could start at about 200 people and one morning, and we could see where it goes. you
Well,
know,
are we gonna advertise it? I'm only going by things we've had in the past. You know, we've had air shows, remember? And we've had, I think Patty Wagstaff came or something, and there was a bunch of, other people that were, you know, well-known in the flying industry that came. And we had a really good crowd. And, I mean, I was there at all those.
Well,
The last one kind of went, you know, kind of pooped, but the other ones before that were pretty good.
And the last one was put on by a promoter, not
Promoter
by
that was-
Yeah,
the
that's
volunteer
why.
staff,
Yeah,
yeah,
people.
airport staff.
Yeah.
and those are revenue generating opportunities as well,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
this is,
This wouldn't be
Costly.
an air show like you're used to. It would be a fly-in, or like when we used to have the sky,
Like a flyover where we get them to come. There's no
Right.
charge for that usually. You get military
So-
assistance.
you could advertise it on airport web, or not airport websites, but aviation websites that, you know, New Smyrna's having a 75th anniversary, fly in, and come spend the day with us or whatever. But to get bigger aircraft, or warbirds as they're called, that use the field, would be lots of money. I mean, $5,000 would cover one airplane. But you could do, and I keep wanting to say Skyfest, but I'm not using the right word,
Well,
Jeff.
it happens that April 10th is on a Sunday, which is good and bad, because it happens to be Palm Sunday. So maybe the Saturday, the day before, would be a better day to have it. And we could have something the whole day long. You could start off in the morning with the hot air balloons, or end at night with them, depending on the wind. Where I come from in Ohio, from spring through fall, every weekend was a pancake breakfast, sponsored usually by the local EAA. And that brings in people because pilots want to fly somewhere. And of course, they'll go for the pancake breakfast or a lunch, the $100 hamburger. And
Or a big
your
barbecue.
hootenanny, Gary, that you've had, you know, the dinner dance hanger in the evening always goes over well. So we could do a whole day, or we could just do one of those. And I know Epic has had some interest in helping out and sponsoring, the same thing with Airgate.
That's what I was
So-
thinking,
so we
something
have-
like that with the shade set up, so Epic and Airgate and others, Embry-Riddle, if they want to participate,
Yeah, they
could pass out flyers about flight school, mechanic school for Epic and Airgate's business. Embry-Riddle could pass out stuff about Embry-Riddle, you know, if they wanted. I talked to Jason McGurk, our commissioner for the airport area, and said he would be glad to assist whatever he can do, and have the mayor come and make a speech about that. So I was thinking something where not so much a catered lunch for 200 people, but we invite the airport resources to come, and Embry-Riddle too, because they use it so much, and have some shades and perhaps food trucks or something like that, where people, if they want to eat, they can buy something.
Well-
Have some vendors come, or ice cream truck, or food truck, or whatever. I do know Jack Bolt's son, and have been talking to him about the possibility of him coming, and recognizing that the mayor's going to make a speech about the 75th anniversary of Jack Bolt Field. His son is willing and would love to come and just sit on the podium or whatever, okay, in honor of his dad. So I have made that contact already, and he's willing to do that. I'm just throwing some ideas out.
Well,
Right.
But the problem is that we got one more meeting this year, right? Okay. And then April's gonna be on us, all right? So
Well, we have two more meetings.
we got a, there's an
September-
October meeting.
Or, wait, when is the next one?
Are you doing it every 2 months now? before we were doing it like every month, but now
It's-
we've skipped a
Well,
couple.
it's every 3 months.
It's
quarterly.
Quarterly.
The next
Right now,
one's
we're meeting
October.
quarterly,
Mhm.
and this is
Right.
July. Okay.
So the next one will be
The next meeting is
October.
October
So
27th,
we have
right?
2 more
And then there's one in, there-
January.
in March, that's the day before the event. So it kind of needs
Is
to
it
be
March?
scoped now, and so that these folks can go or we can make a committee or whatever we want to do, but we have to have a plan and we have to get going on this, I think.
Yeah, could also have the Lost Lagoon in on it too. Maybe they could have a car show at the time, the same day. So there would be other activities in the area.
Well, is it appropriate to put together some, Adam, you're gonna wind up, being the lead on this thing, I guess, and I'm sure you need help. Is there some way that some of us could help you do this? Or how do you want to do it?
Can I say something before you talk?
Well,
Okay, down here in this community, if you look at, there are a lot of airplanes around here. I mean, there's a lot of schools, there's a lot of airplanes. You got Titusville, they got warbirds there. If you're gonna, this is me, if you're gonna go, you might as well go big. I mean, it's 75 years, it's a wow factor. People have been looking forward to coming and getting out and being out in the open because we've been stuck in our homes with COVID and everything that we've done, since 2019 was a great year, but then, so what I'm saying to you is, I think that we should, really make it a wow factor. I don't think it's gonna take that much time. Now, don't freak over there. Because I'm sure we can, give you some help. I think that we just need to, what I'd really love to see is I'd love to see the military come in and do a fly-in, a flyover as a celebration. After all, the military gave us the airport. Why can't we get that? We should be able to do that.
It's a lot of work.
It's not like it's 2 days.
We
It's
have
been
a,
75 years. And it's all about getting on the phone and making a conversation and talking and saying, hey, we're doing this. We would love to know if we could count on your response and help us, do a fly-in over, wouldn't it be great to have the guys that fly? I mean, so I just think that because everybody's been cooped up a lot, I think it would be a good event. It's outside. I think people will want to come. I think they'll enjoy it. That's just my personal opinion, but I am a big person of trying to do big things, meaning, go big or go home.
Well, having done these events over probably the past 10 years, 8 years, 3 times a winter, you got to think about the size of where you're putting everything.
Yeah.
People are dumb, so they don't have their head on swivel, and something bad's going to happen one day. And I've always worried about that on our property. But, if you have aircraft coming in for a breakfast or lunch or whatever, you got to figure out where you're going to put all these aircraft, how you're going to keep the walking people away from them and keep them educated. So that's going to call for a lot of people walking around with airplanes as they're taxiing in or taxiing out. There's a lot of pre-planning.
Are you talking about like roping off the areas where the individual aircraft come in, that the people are coming to?
Yeah, if you have an airplane come in, you have to have an area where you can park them that there aren't people. And I guarantee you, there'll be one person walking out onto the runway or just walking around.
Well, don't you think we can get help from the city? I mean, meaning, when I say that, I mean like.
We're the airport.
But you know what? Times are changing. Like, what I mean, get help from the city is like, could we not have the fire department there and the police department there? And, if we're only talking one day, I mean,
it's,
you know what I'm saying? Could we not have that there?
They're going to charge you.
yes, yeah, there's
Mike is not
provisions.
going to let his people work for free or pay him overtime for that. He's going to charge you.
Well, now wait a minute. Are you
but
sure?
fuel sales will be up, so that will counteract maybe the cost of having some firemen or policemen in.
I think there's a variety of factors. I think the weather would dictate, obviously, we're hearing this right now. You know, the reason why I started this was just kind of a crawl, walk, run. You know, this is something where we could see how logistically possible this is. If it looks like this is easy, then we can escalate it. Or we could add another phase to it. You know, we could have the general public there in the morning and then in the afternoon do more of a fly-in. Although that's typically when the storms kick up, but maybe not in April. And then, you know, as far as the evening, you know, maybe we could do something like that. The other thing you got to consider is parking for these events. We don't have 500 cars worth of parking easily arranged. And so, you know, if you get a couple thousand people at the airport at once, unless you're committing parts of the infield to parking, which is tying up a whole other operational side. So I just don't want to be putting the proverbial stick in our bicycle here.
You know where the sign is over there on the parking over there by, I guess it's the waste management or whatever it is, or, oh, I forgot what they call that over there. What is it? Oh, sorry. What about the, okay, when you're coming down US 1 and you've got in the industrial parkway, and you know they have that area right in there, that would be some area that we could park cars there. It would come out to a certain section, and then maybe in front where we are charging, you know, our parking that we're charging for, maybe in that section right there, above, where the city said that the boaters could park, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, yeah.
For one day, you know, we could say this is a private event, whatever, or, you know, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we still have to try to mitigate people wandering airside. You know,
Right.
so if it's gonna be on the ground side of the airport, it makes things a lot easier. But celebrating the ground side is not the most exciting part of the airport. So trying to get people airside, I would rather have a smaller group of real passionate aviation people
Yeah.
than have necessarily than have average uninitiated airport person wandering around on the airside.
Well, we could send out invitations to certain people that we would want. I mean, something like that if you wanted to keep it, you know, more smaller, whatever.
Well, Gary's suggestion about putting the email out to pilots and so forth would probably keep it smaller and
Eileen,
with
I
people
can't
who
hear you.
are
I'm sorry.
airport aware.
Talk in your mic, baby.
Yeah, thank you. I can't hear you.
Gary's suggestion about sending out an email to pilots would keep the people coming in a smaller number and also airport aware.
Well, when we had the FONSBA events at the front of the airport, and that's when Ed Wilkinson owned the property that we used that ramp. And it was maybe a dozen airplanes would show up, and maybe 100 people, kind of close to maybe 200 throughout the day. And we'd bring airplanes in and taxi them in and just keep people away from them as they're coming in until they shut down. But I don't know. I think
So, let me speak up on that,
huh?
please. I said, let me just speak up on that behalf. Shay from Epic Aviation was over to see me probably 3 weeks ago, asking, and I believe I gave Mrs. Smizer her name, and we gave Shay Mrs. Smizer's contact information, and I spoke to her. They want to participate, and they are willing to supply staffing. And I'm sure if you guys have ideas that you want to use their ramp and those kind of things, there are things that you can address with them. But she wants to assist on the committee. If you form a committee, she said, and they want to do things that would be considered community service. So I'm sure if there are items like parking cars in the parking area out front, those would be things that they would like to participate with. So I just stating that maybe when you guys do form a committee that you contact Shay from Epic Aviation to see what kind of assistance you can get from them also. Because it sounds like they are really interested in making this a nice event.
Yes, and I've talked with Joe Zitka also, and he is of the same ilk. He would like to participate and help out.
There's your ramp.
There's the ramp. Okay.
And what about the stage? What are you thinking about that? Are you thinking about like entertainment?
It was mainly just going to be a focal point if, you know, as Member Dempsey said, or Vice Chair, said you know, if people wanted to speak or make proclamations for the airport, it was just to give them somewhere. This is, I mean, unless you guys have attempted, you know, drawn anything up yourself, this is the first time I've visualized it, kind of the layout, the number of aircraft that might be there, how many people could comfortably fit. So this was just, you know, first stone in the road for us to walk down here.
Well, maybe we need to put up a committee, all right?
I think a committee would be
Let's put a
really
committee
good.
together. Like I said, I talked to Jason. Jason said that he would be glad to work with the mayor and have, that there could be a proclamation recognizing the day as the 75th anniversary, make a speech, talk a little bit about the airport. That was kind of the discussion that I had with Jason, and he was very excited about it. He thought it would be great. So if we have some type of podium and some speaker, speaker system, we could do that. That could be the focal point, but we could have this other stuff where we have Epic and Airgate and Embry-Riddle or whoever be there and show off their stuff, okay? And,
Well, the city does have portable stage that we've used for the Balloon Fest in the past.
Okay.
They also have bleachers, portable bleachers that we've used for the Balloon Fest in the past. And I would say that if you put together a committee and you come up with a list of things that you would like for the city to make as part of their participation as a sponsor, that's what we have done. And if you've already got Jason McGurk on board,
Yep.
and you get the mayor on board, it goes to the commission with a request to supply police, fire, and we can give you the Balloon Fest stuff that we've asked for in the past that we've received.
Okay.
Picnic tables, they get delivered
Well,
and then
if we
picked
put a
up.
committee together, can we use your conference room at the admin building to meet like, you know, every other week or something and begin to push this thing along and make it happen?
Yeah, we could make the office available for that. I
We just
think-
need we just need a place to get together. We don't need this.
Yeah, and I'd also like, I've spoken with Chris Edwards, our economic director. I think there's a tendency with events like this to focus on the history, but we also need to be looking forward. We need to have, I believe, a lot of emphasis put on, you know, the economic future and the opportunities at the airport as much.
Yeah.
Still be reverent to the past, but also celebrate, because you need to have the future to celebrate it, right? So
Yeah.
that needs to be as much on the discussion, and I think
I was thinking about maybe possibly for the stage event is actually having somebody come in here, like, don't laugh when I say this, but like Blake Shelton or Luke, country western singer or something like that. That might be a possibility. I might be able to do that.
Can I
don't
come
know.
back?
Huh?
Can I come back?
Sure. Everybody can come.
If you
But
have Blake Shelton,
somebody,
I'd
you
really
know,
like to go.
a named person that would actually draw, and it would only be an event at the evening after our fly zone boys go and all that stuff. I mean, I could have done this if we'd have done it a lot earlier because I had connections then, because I put on a concert myself, and I had a lot of very famous people there, but who I worked with, he died, so he's a in music land in heaven. So I don't know. I just have to do some research on that.
All right, well, we're getting into committee conversation. Does anybody want to make a motion, start a committee?
Can I just remind you, if you start a committee, you have to abide by sunshine laws if there's
Yes.
more than 2 of you on there.
I was going right there with you, because normally you'll probably have more than one committee member.
So it could be a member from the board and staff, but it could not be 2 members from the board and staff.
Can they do 2 members as long as they advertise it and open it to the public?
Right, as long as it's advertised. I don't know that you want to do that, though.
You mean-
With the cost.
Advertise it in what way?
Advertise to the public that you're having a meeting and make it open to the public, which would kind
Oh.
of defeat your purpose. But you
Gotcha.
could have 1 member and staff, and then staff could report back to the board.
Okay.
But Shay, traditionally, you can see we just have an overflow of public participation. So I think our conference room might be able to handle that. I'm sorry.
I understand, as long as you let them in.
Yeah.
It's got to be a place open
It's
to
usually
the public.
always like this. There may be, the FAA always comes. That's about
Well,
it.
I think Celeste and
No.
Gary have the experience in
I think you
planning
should do this
events.
because
Yes.
you've been wanting to do this for a long time.
I was about to nominate you to be the contact point between Adam, so I'm making a motion that Mrs. Smyser ends up being the key person for
Yeah.
the committee that doesn't exist and deals directly with Adam. Anybody want to second that motion?
I second it.
Tammy, call the roll.
Chair Norval?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dempsey?
Yes.
Member Lester?
Yes.
Member Mitchell?
Yes.
Member Smizer?
silent.
All right.
This is right up your alley.
Thank you.
On to 5C, fiscal year 22
Well,
airport.
now, wait a minute, can't we have another member of the board on this committee? Because it will be advertised, and we'll,
If you're going to advertise it and make it open to the public. If you're not going to advertise it and make it open to the public, then no, it only is 1 member.
well, there's no reason to have this not open to the public, so.
Well, let me ask you this. Wait, I got a question. So can we do it right now for the one person? And then can we add another if we decide that we need to add another and then do it open to the public? Can we do that?
You would discuss, so then you would bring it back before your board, make that discussion. If you're going to add another member, then yes, you would make it open to the public. It's just that whole sunshine law thing.
Okay,
2 or
because
more members discussion.
there's a lot of work to be done before, a lot of legwork. So if you're doing the legwork first, then if we need another person later on down the road that, you know what I'm saying? That might be a good way to go.
So we need another person now, too.
Well, and this is why the scope that I set first, crawl, walk, run.
Yeah, let's do that
Because
first.
the magnitude of this from a planning and strategic operations is.
But if we don't get started now,
Well,
planning it, it's
Well,
not gonna
I
happen.
nominate Gary to be the second person from the board because he's had experience with so many events at the airport.
I second that. Take a vote?
Chair Norval?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dempsey?
Yes.
Member Lester?
Yes.
Member Mitchell?
Yes.
Member Smizer?
Yes.
All right, 5C, fiscal year 22 airport budget update.
Awesome.
We have most of the typical costs projected for next year as well as this year. A couple key changes. I have asked for another groundskeeper to be able to free up our maintenance guys, which are tasked with both groundskeeping and fuel farm and lights and everything else that we do at the airport. So there was a slight increase there, and for equipment, we're going to be getting a new 360 mower, a new mower deck for the large tractor mower, and there wasn't too many other operational expense changes. The big one was capital improvements. We stripped about $1.2 million out of capital improvements. We went after projects which the local share was great for us, and that'll help reduce the local share burden for next year's budget.
Okay. Anybody got anything on the budget questions? Move on to 5D, annual board report.
It's all about you guys.
Huh?
This is all about you guys.
This is that form you guys were to fill out
Yeah.
and combine so you guys could present it to the city commission.
Speak in your blank.
You weren't alone.
Yeah. But we had decided that wasn't we going to do a workshop before we filled those out?
I listened back to the minutes, and no, you guys decided I was going to do the email in June to remind you. You were going to email them to me so I could bring them to this meeting.
I'm bad. I'll be the first one to admit it.
So I have 3 that were turned in. So y'all need to.
Tell me what would be best for you and how we do this.
I've never done one, so I'm open for suggestions. If Rhonda has input, if they've done it previously, I don't know.
I thought it was a new thing that the city commission requested were the boards to do this annual report. So a couple of us submitted some suggestions of things that could be considered, and I thought from the original that you were going to take that and you guys were going to come up with a proposed board report with the stuff that we sent you.
That was the plan, but we weren't sure if anybody was going to bring theirs with them today.
Oh,
Because I didn't have everybody's.
Okay. Because I think we gave you quite a bit of stuff.
It did. The 3 that I got had a lot of information on them.
And you could, the thinking I had was that you were going to take that and pick out because I'm so new still, and
Right.
I thought you would just pick the items out that should go into the report and then put it together. And
I can do that now, and then I can email it to you guys. Am I correct in that, Shay?
Yes.
So where we have agreement between the 3 reports,
Yes.
where we have that common agreement, that'll be the language that we use. And then where there's a difference, if we have outliers in terms of what people put, then, we have to decide how you guys want to handle that. Do you want it all represented?
So this
Does
week
that
I'll
make
send you
sense?
a first draft. You guys give me your feedback individually. I will blind copy you guys, just make sure you respond only to me. And then whatever input you guys give back, we'll edit it and then turn it into the city commission.
okay,
Okay.
That's excellent.
that works for me.
Okay,
All right.
Works for me too.
moving on.
All right. New business.
Can I ask one question though? When I went to the website and I looked at the objectives and goals, there's for our board, it said the purpose of the Airport Advisory Board is to advise the City Commission and the manager on policy matters relating to development, use, and operation of the airport. How exactly does that happen? How does the actions that we take here and the things that we vote on, motions we make, recommendations that we give you, how does that get communicated to the commission and the city manager and the mayor?
If you make a formal motion, the formal motion is then put as an agenda item. Or if if you're making a motion on something that's already going to the commission, say a project that we're doing at the airport, we will note in there that the Airport Advisory Board recommended that we do or made a motion to approve taxiway A rehab or whatever it happens to be. So we include it that way. The commission has access to all the minutes that are generated. We used to send them directly to the commissioners as part of our packet. Now it's on a website that they have access to, so they can look at what you're discussing at the meetings. And then other than that, this report that you're talking about today has been a form that they've asked for, but they've not it's been in place, it just hasn't been being utilized. And so when there was some issues recently with some of the boards, they came back and said, yeah, they'd like for each board to do that. I thought that there was a timeline. Shay, do you happen to know? I was thinking that they wanted those returned, and when you guys are talking about getting this back to them, are you talking about finalizing it at your September meeting or your October meeting, or?
Via email, I believe. And isn't that what we decided? I was gonna put everybody's together, send it to you guys. If you agreed, then I was gonna forward it to the
Right.
city
Mhm.
clerk.
That's right. You just said
Yeah.
that a few minutes ago.
Okay, then it would go to the clerk, yeah, because I think 3 months out is, because it's already, I think, past the
Yes.
timeline that they gave us to get this back to them. So,
Yes.
but other than that, they can come to the meetings, they get our minutes, and if it's a formal motion, then we provide that to them with, who voted, just like, exact same thing that they do when they have a commission meeting. They put
Okay.
together a summary, so.
Okay.
Have you ever been to commission meeting?
Oh, I go regularly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because if you'll notice, everything will be on there.
Okay.
I mean, every single.
All right.
part.
Yeah, things changed a little bit when it went to electronic as opposed to when it used to be, we emailed it to the clerk and the clerk forwarded it on. Now it's all in that electronic program that we have set up. So they have a lot easier access to it than they would have in the past.
New business. Epic Flight Academy noise abatement video. Watch the video.
Ready?
Since 1999, Epic Flight Academy has been training pilots from New Smyrna Beach Municipal Airport. Epic Flight Academy prides itself on being part of the New Smyrna Beach community and understands how important youth empowerment is to residents of the city. One of our utmost priorities while conducting flight training operations is to respect the residents living in the neighborhoods surrounding New Smyrna Beach Municipal Airport. This video outlines the noise abatement procedures that Epic Flight Academy instructors and students are required to abide by while training. The following noise abatement procedures should be conducted while flight training at New Smyrna Beach Municipal Airport unless a deviation is required due to poor weather, ATC instruction, flight clearance, an in-flight emergency, or any other safety of flight issue. When departing the airport, pilots should climb out at a VY while flying over residential neighborhoods. Pilots should also reduce their power when it is safe and practical to help lessen the noise. No low altitude, high RPM approaches on extended downwind, base, and final. Utilize VFR runway markings, including fixed distance markers located 1,000 feet past the threshold for flight training. This will allow for airplanes to be higher over residential areas while on the final approach. No touch and go operation should be conducted between 1700 and 0800 local time. Also, no touch and go operations may be conducted on Sundays and national holidays. No repetitive flight training operations should be conducted between 2200 and 0700 on Sundays and national holidays. Pilots should not conduct more than 8 touch and goes without coming to a full stop or departing the pattern. When in the traffic pattern at New Smyrna Beach Municipal Airport, pilots should turn their crosswind no lower than 500 feet, which is 300 feet mean sea level below the traffic pattern altitude of 800 feet mean sea level. Once at traffic pattern altitude, the pilot must reduce the throttle to a suitable cruise setting to help decrease engine noise. When turning from the base leg to final, pilot should be no lower than 300 feet mean sea level. If runway 7 is being used for left traffic pattern, pilot should turn from the upwind leg to the crosswind leg over the unpopulated islands between US 1 and the lighthouse. The downwind leg should be flown to the north of the Islesboro neighborhood. The base and final leg should be conducted over the wooded area west of the Turnbull Bay neighborhood. runway 25 is being used for the right traffic pattern, pilot should turn from the upwind leg to the crosswind leg over the wooded area west of the Turnbull Bay neighborhood. The downwind leg should be flown to the north of the Isleboro neighborhood. The base and final leg should be conducted over the unpopulated island between US 1 and the lighthouse. If runway 11 is being used for left traffic pattern, pilot should turn from the upwind leg to the crosswind leg over the unpopulated islands. The crosswind leg should be conducted east of the White Sand area, east of the Inland Shores neighborhood. The downwind leg should be flown over the unpopulated islands and to the northeast of the Isleboro neighborhood. The base and final leg should be conducted over the wooded area west of the Turnbull Bay neighborhood. If runway 11 is being used for right traffic pattern, pilot should turn from the upwind leg to the crosswind leg over the unpopulated islands east of US 1. The downwind leg should be flown south of the airport. The base and final leg should be conducted over the wooded area west of the Turnbull Bay neighborhood. If runway 29 is being used for left traffic pattern, pilot should turn from the upwind leg to the crosswind leg over the wooded area west of the Turnbull Bay neighborhood. The downwind leg should be flown south of the airport. The base and final legs should be conducted over the unpopulated islands east of US 1. If runway 29 is being used for right traffic pattern, pilot should turn from the upwind leg to the crosswind leg over the wooded area west of the Turnbull Bay neighborhood. The downwind leg should be flown north of the airport. The base leg should be conducted over the unpopulated islands. The base leg should be conducted east of the White Sand area, east of the Inlet Isles neighborhood. The final leg should be conducted over the unpopulated islands east of US 1. If runway 2 is being used for left traffic pattern, pilot should turn from the upwind leg to the crosswind leg over the unpopulated islands east of the Isleboro neighborhood. The downwind leg should be flown to the northwest of the Isleboro neighborhood over Turnbull Creek. The base and final leg should be conducted over Turnbull Creek and the sparsely populated area south of the airport. If runway 20 is being used for right traffic pattern, pilot should turn from the upwind leg to the crosswind leg over the sparsely populated area south of the airport and Turnbull Creek. The downwind leg should be flown to the northwest of the Isleboro neighborhood over Turnbull Creek. The base and final leg should be conducted over the unpopulated islands east of the Isleboro neighborhood. Epic Flight Academy ensures that our students and instructors follow the noise abatement procedures to reduce aircraft noise over the residents of New Smyrna Beach. A safety report must be filed if a violation of the noise abatement procedures occur. By understanding and implementing these noise abatement procedures on every flight, Epic Flight Academy's instructors and students will provide the most enjoyable environment for its residents. Be sure to like our video and subscribe for more Epic content. And while you're here, check out some of our more recent videos and playlists.
Very nice.
Well, I appreciate their video, but the statement that he makes about that the EPIC students and instructors are required to do that is just not true. When they make that left traffic out of 11, instead of going out over the unpopulated marsh area, they go due north to the white area on Rattlesnake Island. They come right over Inlet Shores. And the last couple of weeks, there's an Inlet Shores Facebook group, and they have just been going nuts about the traffic. So they're just shortcutting it. We had one day about 2 weeks ago where it started about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and went to about 10 o'clock at night, and it was nonstop. And we had an event prior to that where one of the residents put a petition in everybody's mailbox asking for them to contact the airport office, and I called Tammy and told them, get ready, here it comes. And sure enough, they got inundated with phone calls all day long. So it's great they got the video and that they say that they're pushing that, but the reality is we still get some days, especially in Inlet Shores where I'm a resident, that, and there's this little small core group of anti-airplane people there that are just going nuts over it every opportunity that they get. The vast majority of Inlet Shores residents don't care, okay? It's an airplane. But I'm glad they've got the video, because when the Facebook post started this week, one of the other residents went and grabbed this video off of YouTube and posted it in response to the rant by one of the residents in the neighborhood. So this is good. It helped with the event that we had this week, because that person was requesting that Inlet Shores form a task force to go to the airport and address the noise issue. Okay, so just passing on some information from residents that are affected by the traffic pattern there.
Okay. Number 7, airport manager comments. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I was going to say, I think I addressed my comments in the taxiway project, and Adam may have stuff.
I have a couple things. First is FDOT's coming to inspect the airfield August 10th. They do this every year. So we're going to do what we do every year, which is just keep on top of things like we have been. And previously they reported concerns with the surface markings, which we have that project in place to address. I anticipate that this visit's report will have those same surface marking concerns reiterated, but the painting's going to happen after the guy's here. We've been approached for an event on the airport property, which has the potential to generate some revenue for the airport in terms of parking for that event. So we're looking at using a portion of the airfield to accommodate up to maybe 3,000, 4,000 cars for an event.
What is the event?
It's basically going to be like a music event at the sports complex. I don't know too much about it yet, but at the moment, that's something that we're working on and we're walking down the road with. So I think that's something that would be an opportunity for us financially, and the legwork for that would happen after the 75th. So we'll definitely know what we're doing after that.
I think it's July, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe it's
like,
July.
I think he wanted to do it
Late in July.
He wanted to do it 4th of July weekend, but they convinced him that it needed to be a little bit later, like 17th through the 19th.
I spoke with Roy at Flagler. They had a Freedom Fest festival that he used a model for vehicle parking on their airfield. It was roughly $5 a car. We're setting this up right now. We're going to ask $10,000 a day for 5 days. It's an opportunity for us to gain a little bit of additional revenue. There's obviously a lot of things to come before that were to happen, but that's something that I think is germane, because we're also talking about parking with the 75th. So.
Okay. All right. Number 8, Airport Advisory Board member comments. I'm going to start off. I don't know, all of you know, but this is Rhonda's last Airport Advisory Board meeting. She won't be to another one after this, not unless Adam gets fired in the first week.
They still won't let me come back, so.
So all I gotta say is, for a girl that was the golf course girl to come to the airport and end up doing the airport manager's job, and the millions of dollars that she's brought into the airport and projects she's brought into the airport, and never being made a department head, which was wrong, but She works her ass off, and she's there 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, if she needs to be, which I've always disagreed with. But just want to say thank you, Rhonda. You did really, really good.
Thank
And
you.
I
It's
hope
been
you
great
enjoy
working
your
with you.
retirement.
Awesome.
I'm done. Anybody else got Airport Advisory Board member comments?
I always have something to say. You were talking about revenue that you might get next July from parking. Are we getting any revenue now from the paved parking there in front of the airport?
We're not currently collecting. One of my challenges right now is accomplishing the logistics of tracking everyone that's parking, and I've looked at a couple different ways of doing it. At the moment, we don't have any city resources available to cover that parking lot. And so it would be up to our staff. So I'm looking at like a scanning technology where we could drive and scan the cars that are there and then compare it with the tickets that have been sold. I've also got a quote for an automatic arm system that would raise and lower to allow people in and out based on the time on their ticket and their charges. And then I've also looked at a service that's based in Daytona that, for lack of a better word, polices paid parking lot, or supervised paid parking lot. So they would start in Daytona and trickle down to the parking lots they manage. One of them could be ours, and then we would get that report for the vehicles that are parked there, who's paying. All of those come with either staffing or some sort of financial commitment. So I'm still trying to weigh the options. Certainly the ARM system is the largest initial investment, but it's 24/7 and it doesn't impact our staffing. So I think that's an attractive option right now. And they do have, just for context, it could be up to $35,000 for an automatic ARM system to control the parking lot. Typically the break-even point is a parking lot of about 100 spaces. We're at 40 currently. We could expand, and that system would be probably a better fit in that environment. But it is something that we could implement for about maybe $35,000. We could see how the first couple of years go, what the revenue coming back is, and then the main thing is it's not tying up our guys' time out on the airfield somewhere. That's really been the big challenge with supervising and monitoring the paid parking.
And then the Veer Tower that we voted on last, when is that going to come in?
I have followed most of what I can do so far. I have permission from IT. We have an arrangement set up with finance. We've done our purchasing practices. So one of the items that I've been working with Shay on is how do we manage the data that's created in terms of if it's sensitive to the airport operations. Having those operations provides us a strategic advantage when we want to prioritize projects, because we know how the airspace and the ground space is being utilized, the fuel farm, et cetera. And it also affords us some accountability when we discuss with Epic, like in your video you say this, but this is what the software showed. All that being said, if it is that transparent for us, how do we protect the airport operations so that it's not that transparent for everyone in the public? Shay, do you have something you'd like to speak on that?
I would just add that the issue is we're looking at public records issues, basically. It deals with what would open the door to public records. This software sounds like it will be good for you all, but it could open some other doors up that you may not want to have open, because I do believe part of this is going to be subject to public records, and it's going to be an aspect as to how it will be handled through the airport and through the airport staff as to how they will respond to public records and what needs to be redacted from this information that will be gathered through this software.
Okay.
So that's kind of the last perhaps the second to last hurdle to implementing it is just defining how it's going to be used.
Well, the data is pretty specific about what they collect. So it would seem like in a finite period of time, you could figure out what items you want to make accessible to the public and what you want to redact. Is there a timeline for that?
So my understanding,
I mean, Vertower is standing ready to come and install their equipment and begin the effort, okay? And it's,
The question just comes down to statutorily, where does it fall in 119? And what can be redacted based on 119, which is the public record statute, and what we need to provide if someone were to call up and say, I want the records of this plane that flew over, what is our duty to provide to them, and what information we would be providing? And how much of that will staff be inundated with those questions and concerns?
and in, some of the aircraft that are operating, it's basically in the airport security plan, the concern is information that wouldn't normally be known. So when if you were to call in and say who landed, where'd they fly from last, did they get fuel, all these different things, is not something that would be normally known. So I have some concern about that. But on the other hand, all the positives are there. So I think it's going to be navigable. We still have a little bit of work to do on that.
So are you thinking that, like, Joe Smith that lives on Islesboro or something calls up and wants to know what aircraft flew over his house at 12:35 p.m. on January the 27th? Do other airports deal with that? I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, I would find that would be,
So that's the crux of what's left to resolve.
well, when the gentleman made the presentation here from Vertower, he noted airports up and down the state that are using their system. Are you guys taking a look at what those airports and cities are doing with their data? It might be one
Yes.
way.
I'm sure Adam is. I kind of have just been thrown into it, so I'm sure it's a discussion that we're going to have down the road and talk to other airports as to how they're handling it, what they're doing, and are they getting questions like he may experience here.
yeah.
So not all the airports that have implemented it necessarily have a noise abatement concern. And some of the airports that have implemented it, there may not be the same feedback. So if the data's there, but I haven't collated it or created a report, then my understanding is that I have no record to give someone that requests. Once I go and I ask the software to give me something, now I've created that record. And who gets it next? How long is it retained? All those kinds of questions. So that's what we're working to resolve.
Do you get very many calls like that? I mean, do you get very many calls from citizens that, I know that some people complain about the noise. They just don't like the planes flying over their property or whatever. But do you get any, I mean, not that we've got this now, but I mean, before, did you get a lot of complaints about stuff like that?
Between emails, phone calls, voicemails, et cetera, it's dozens per week sometimes.
Really?
And right now, we have a rough idea. The tower keeps track of operations, and they're very gracious working with us, and we're able to, when it's asked of us, provide the operational count. Other than that, there's not a lot of deliverables that we can give for, that information request. So this is a new area.
All right. Number 9, next meeting date, October 27th, 2021 at 2 p.m.
I wasn't finished.
You weren't finished?
No.
You're killing me.
You can take another nap. Last night around 5, I went to the South Hangars to check on Hangar H and its progress and so forth, and it is coming along nicely, even though it's beyond schedule, but it's coming along. But when I was there, no one was in the T hangars or on the construction site. But the door to the bathroom was wide open. And so I was thinking of the security of the airport and looking at the fence down there. And I think even I would be able to climb over that fence. Security and safety is one of my agenda items, and also the FOD on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the runways are not inspected. On a better note, I'd like to commend you, Adam, for doing the good job of spring cleaning in the T hangars.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Gary.
Somebody make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
We're
Second.
adjourned.